The research camp buzzes with activity, despite the permanent night cloaking the region. The March equinox. Floodlights mounted on steel poles outside the temporary research station cast long, ghostly shadows across the glistening ice and snow. Inside, the echo of conversation and soft humming of equipment punctuate the warm air.
"This section right here,"
says Ellie, a glaciologist with sharp eyes and a worn parka, tapping her pen against a long cylindrical core sample lit up on the examination table.
"See the difference in isotopic layering on the chart? That tells us this ice is at least 2.9 to 3.1 million years old. Look at the methane bubbles. The atmospheric composition is practically ancient."
Across the table, Dr. Perrin, paleoclimatologist with thick-rimmed glasses and wind-burned cheeks, leans in.
"That correlates with the mid-Pliocene warm period. Exactly what we came here to study." "You're right,"
Ellie nods, smiling faintly.
"This is worth more than gold."
Outside, 100 metres from the main camp, a smaller group huddles around the new advanced drill station. Red warning lights blink as the winch system hums to life over the 3.5 kilometre deep borehole, pulling up another long, pristine core. "Core's coming up," shouts Mason, the group's mechanic, wiping his oil-stained gloves against his jacket. He looks over at Dr. Core, one of the logistics experts. "Get ready, Doctor. This might be the deepest one yet." After the core breaches the surface, it's carefully laid out and cut into smaller sections. Each is then transferred into an insulated storage tube. Gustav, the drilling team lead, and the other logistics expert, inspects each segment with awe. Near the bottom section, something dark disrupts the otherwise perfect banding of ancient ice.
"The hell is that?"
he mutters, kneeling down.
"That's not sediment, that's..."
He trails off. The group crowds round. Inside the darkened ice is the unmistakable outline of a large insectoid shape, about the size of a large rat, twisted and still. Frozen next to it is what appears to be a clutch of eggs.
"Holy shit. Is that a mosquito?"
Mason questions.
"It can't be. Not at that size. And not this far back. This thing must be prehistoric,"
Dr. Core says, after joining them. Her voice is hushed with wonder. Everyone is stunned into silence. Hours later, back at the lab inside the base, the section containing the strange creature is carefully removed from its tube, and a small section is removed off the top of the sample, ensuring to avoid damaging the apparent insect. Tests confirm the sample is 3 million years old. Ellie films the process on a phone, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Later, she sits in the mess hall with Mason.
"It's a mosquito,"
she says again, as if saying it aloud will make it make any sense.
"A giant mosquito with a barbed tail. I mean, what if it's not even a mosquito? What if it's something new?"
Mason shrugs. "My work is drills and machinery, not bugs, but it freaks me out. Those eggs looked almost fresh." Dinner is quiet. Excitement has given way to weariness. The team eventually heads to bed, leaving the lab in near darkness. At around 1:15 AM, Dr. Perrin stirs. Restless, he walks to the lab. The insect's dark form lingers inside the ice block in the freezer. He glances over his shoulder. No one's around. With careful movements, he wheels over a heat lamp. Just to map the surface, he tells himself. Just enough to study it closer. He flips the switch. The ice begins to melt. Steam curls around the chamber. Perrin makes himself a decaf coffee whilst he waits, and takes a seat, his back to the thawing sample. Some time passes by whilst he's distracted by his phone. That's when he hears it. A crack, followed by some faint movement. He slowly stood up from his feet and glanced over his shoulder. His mug crashes to the floor. A buzzing fills the air. A few moments later, Ellie wakes from a dream of sleep, parched. She walks to the lab for some water and maybe something to eat. As she rounds the corner, she notices a broken mug on the floor, coffee spreading across the metal in a brown smear. A puddle of water glistens in front of a heat lamp still glowing red.
What the hell?
She mutters to herself. She searches the lab and checks the sleeping quarters. Perrin's bunk is empty. Confused and unnerved, she tries to wake Mason, but to no avail. So she woke up Dr. Talia and Gustav. They searched the base. Nothing. No gear missing. Wrapped in winter gear, Ellie, Gustav and Talia head outside. The air is still and tense. The eternal night seems even darker now. Using their torches, they find bare footprints trailing off into the snow, leading behind the station.
You went barefoot in this cold?
Talia asks, horrified. No boots, nothing, just whatever he was wearing last. Gustav mutters. What has gotten into him? They follow the prints. Behind the base, they hear some noise. As they get closer, they find Perrin kneeling in the snow, shirtless, digging frantically in the snow with bleeding hands. Gustav shouts to Perrin, "Hey man, you okay?" As he steps closer, he aimed his torch at the back of Perrin's head. They all freeze. The torch illuminated a large crack at the base of Perrin's skull, and relatively fresh crimson glistening across his bare upper back. Talia and Ellie both gasp. Then Talia hunches forward and vomits into the snow. Perrin suddenly stopped digging and bolted upright, suddenly aware of the trio's presence. He slowly turned his head to look over his shoulder, eyes locking onto Talia. Suddenly, Perrin shrieks and lunges, eyes wild and mouth foaming. Gustav and Ellie stagger back as Talia tries to calm him down. "Perrin, stop, it's us." But he tackles her, slamming her head repeatedly into the snow, and quickly retreating, dragging her back towards the hole. "Talia!" Ellie screams. Gustav rushes over, tackling Perrin off of her. Ellie's vision blurs as her lungs tighten and breaths increase. She bolts, panic gripping her chest, and runs through the dark back into the camp. She bursts through the main door and collapses by the wall, gasping in ragged breaths. "Someone, help!" a voice calls. The others rush in. "Give her space," Mason says, appearing beside her. He kneels down and hands her inhaler. She breathes in, allowing the chemicals to relax her throat and helping her slowly calm down.
He attacked her. He's gone feral. They need help. Quick.
Before anyone can respond, the door slams open. Perrin, Talia, and Gustav, all wild-eyed, snarling, and covered in blood, charge inside. Chaos erupts in the entryway. Mason grabs a fire extinguisher and bashes it into Gustav, the biggest threat of the three. Bones crunch. Blood sprays everywhere. The crazed Gustav starts slashing about, dazed. Mason raises the extinguisher again. He brought it down swiftly on Gustav's head. His body then dropped limp onto Ellie. The others, screeching like animals, drag 3 of the screaming researchers out the door.
No!
Ellie screams as Mason drags her away from the door. Mason helps her to her feet. She's trembling violently. The remainder of the group seals the door, dragging the injured to the medbay. Makeshift weapons are formed from tools, pipes, and sharpened utensils and are passed around. Mason found the emergency satellite phone and dialed.
We need evac,
Mason says.
3 went nuts and attacked the team. 3 others have been taken.
Okay, we'll be there by 700.
Replies the ship's captain.
We've got around 8 hours then.
Ellie whispers to herself, in defeat. The group gather supplies, praying no one's contaminated them with whatever has caused these 3 to go feral. Ellie explains in more detail to the group about what she saw, and they discuss the possibility of some sort of virus. 3 hours pass. Ellie checks her watch. 4:07 AM. A few moments later, the lights go out. Darkness envelops the interior of the station.
Shit,
Mason states.
that means we've lost the heating too. We all need to wrap up quick.
They wrap themselves in their winter gear and huddle together as the temperature plummets. Over the course of around 30 minutes, the group heard thumps beneath the station floor, as if those outside were testing for weaknesses. Another hour passed. Ellie gets up to use the bathroom. She finds the door is ajar. A faint dripping echoes from within. Scissors in hand, she prepares herself and slowly pushes the door open. A large hole is melting through the floor, with the liquid dripping into the snow, letting out a hissing sound. Something acidic has eaten away at the metal. Fear washes over her. She turns to alert the others, when screams erupt behind her from the lab. She runs back. 2 infected, Talia and Hiroshi, are attacking the crew, screeching and behaving like rabid animals. Ellie charges in with the scissors raised. She lunges at the closest infected, Hiroshi, tackling him to the ground. While she pinned him with a body weight, he floundered about trying to free himself from his assailant. Mid-slash, she notices a small crack at the base of Hiroshi's skull, similar to that on Perrin's. She swings down hard with the scissors, which went through the crack with a sickening squelch. The infected went limp. Ellie yells,
Go for the base of the skull.
The other infected freezes, seemingly understanding, and then bolts. It drops to all fours near the bathroom and scuttles through the hole. Ellie watches the bathroom as the adrenaline starts to wear off, highlighting the tightening of her throat. She starts to breathe in shallow, raspy breaths. She reached for her inhaler. It's running low, she notices, as she lets the chemicals work their magic. Mason does a quick head count and notices another person has gone missing.
There's a hole in the bathroom. We need to block it off.
Ellie states, through shaky breaths, whilst climbing off the body. Before they can get a bearing of the situation, the missing person, now infected, plus 2 others, crawl back through the hole, screeching. Ellie panics as she still can't breathe properly, so she does the only thing she can think of. She runs. The infected swarm in. Mason stays, defending the injured, swinging left and right as Ellie flees. She dodges past the injured and runs outside the main door and straight to the snowplow truck. The only place she can think of. Buzzing sounds follow her as she stumbles through the snow. She climbs in, slamming the door behind her. Mosquitoes slam into the windshield and driver's side window. She watches in horror as they circle the truck, trying to find a way in. Then, a scream. Her attention is drawn back to the camp. Dr. Walker runs from the base, covered in blood and scratches. The insects see this and give chase. She whimpers to herself as she stumbles through the snow towards the truck, as the mosquitoes begin their assault, slashing at her face and arms as she floundered about trying to defend herself. Then she tripped and fell face first into the snow. Before she could push herself back up, the mosquito seized the opportunity and landed on her upper back. It reared back its barbed tail and sunk it deep into the base of Walker's skull, causing her body to jolt. Her body began spasming. Unbothered, the mosquito then proceeded to squeeze itself through the small opening as blood sprayed into the air, and Walker's eyes rolled backwards. Once it had climbed all the way in, the body went still. Suddenly it rolled over and bolted upright into a sitting position. It turns and stares right at the truck, right at Ellie. Ellie then began fumbling with the lock. The infected then stood up and ran for the truck, slamming into the driver's side door, shaking the truck violently. It stood up and began hammering on the glass. Just as the crack began to emerge, a bright red flash blinds Ellie for a brief moment. A flare embeds itself in the back of Walker's skull. The infected convulsed and collapsed backwards into the snow. A figure holding a road flare stands by the entrance to the station, with a signal pistol raised in his other hand. It's Mason. He begins limping to the truck. To Ellie's surprise, the mosquitoes swarm him, but they remain at bay as he swings a road flare at them. As he gets to the truck, the mosquitoes retreat. She quickly unlocks the door and lets him in.
You okay?
She asks, worried.
Barely. They took the others. I had to kill 3 of them. One of the team ran out. I thought it was you.
He responded. He's pale and still bleeding. They plan their escape and check the fuel gauge. They have just enough to reach Nico Bay. They are suddenly interrupted by footsteps. They look over to see 2 of the infected walking towards the truck. But to both of their surprise, the infected don't attack. Instead, they reach down and grab Walker's body and begin dragging her back the way they came, and disappeared beyond the station.
I think they're nesting,
Mason mutters. He insists on killing them. They're so close to safety, but he can't let it go. Not with those things still alive out there. They can't let the infected, or those mosquitoes, survive, yet alone follow them. He's bleeding, exhausted, and barely conscious, but his mind is set. We end it now, he growls, reloading the flare gun and readying another road flare. We can't risk them getting back, or getting to any of the other stations. Ellie grabs his arm.
You're hurt, Mason. You won't make it 10 feet.
I'll be fine.
Mason, please.
Ellie begs.
It'll be okay,
he reassures. Before she can finish arguing, he unlocks the door and pulls himself back out into the cold. Armed with 2 signal flares and a single road flare clutched tight in his shaking hand, Mason lit the road flare and began limping his way through the snow. Ellie sits with her face against the window, watching him as he trekked through the snow, following the fading footprints behind the station. The soft red glow of his flare, the only thing she can see. She watched as the glow of the flare moved behind the station and suddenly stopped halfway. Then it suddenly faded. Dread washed over her. A sudden distant boom ruptures the night. Followed by a chorus of shrill, insectile screeches. Something behind the station is on fire. Another flash is seen, as a flare is fired presumably into the nest. A brief moment passes. Then another flare is launched high into the sky, to Ellie's confusion. A few moments later, Mason reappears in the glowing orange light. He's staggering, both arms wrapped tightly around his stomach. Ellie rushes out to him, slipping under his arm as he nearly collapses. They stumble back toward the truck and climb inside. She turns on the engine and floors it. In the rearview mirror, she sees one of the infected crew engulfed in flames. Whoever it was collapses mid-run, shaking violently as they burn in the snow.
You should have left me,
Mason mutters.
I couldn't,
she replies, voice barely holding steady. He nods, guilt flickering behind his glassy eyes.
Sorry. What the fuck happened?
She asked. Mason leaned back in his seat, jaw clenched.
I smelt methane near the nest. I threw the flare. Next thing you know, it all went up. Then the shrieking started. Got one of them with my flare pistol as they tried to escape, but another was hiding under the base. He bit down on my stomach and slashed at my chest.
She looks him over, concerned. By 6:50 AM, the white horizon gives way to reveal Nico Harbour and the Southern Ocean. The sea is a glimmer of pale silver. A shadow of a ship waits at the edge of the harbour. They board quickly, both shaking, half frozen. The crew listens to their insane story, shocked but act fast anyway. Mason is taken below deck for treatment. Ellie follows, hovering beside him, until the captain gently pulls her away. 60 stitches later, they both collapse into bunks in the sleeping quarters. Mason's sleep is restless. He's even paler now, drenched in sweat, potentially from a blood infection. His breath is shallow. Fever grips him like a claw. Ellie watches over him, eyelids heavy, fighting sleep. Eventually, she dozes off for what could only have been a few seconds, which is then interrupted by a violent wet tearing. The sound cuts through the hum of the engines like a razor. Her eyes snap open. She slowly turns her head. Mason lies still, mouth agape, and his eyes glazed over. His abdomen pulses once, which draws her attention. Something shifts beneath his jacket. Her heart sinks, then a short buzz. Ellie can't move. She's frozen, heart slamming in her chest. From under his jacket, something moves at its base. A barbed chitinous tail unfurls, twitching in the cold air.